that, again, the president expected to deploy the National Guard, the D.C. National Guard, in and around Washington. This, from what we're being told at this point, has never happened before and would mark a significant turn in events.
A new article from Reuters just came out reading, U.S. military preparing for National Guard activation in Washington, D.C. I want to break down how we got here because Donald Trump's presidency is in crisis mode. The panic is showing, and desperate times call for desperate measures. The U.S. military is preparing for the activation of hundreds of National Guard troops, but as this article reads, one of the officials, under the condition of anonymity so they're not punished, said it was unclear what exactly the troops would do. So they're just pointlessly being mobilized because Donald Trump wants to flex, expand his executive authority, and distract away from both the protests breaking out in Los Angeles against ICE, the Epstein files that he refuses to release, and the fact that the cost of living has not gone down whatsoever. In fact, it has rapidly increased due to his terrible economic policy. Let's break all of this down in a way that the mainstream media just won't. Make sure you're dropping a like on the Adam Mockler channel and double check to see if you're subscribed. Let's start with a few videos that point out the protests going on in LA because over the past 5 days, the media has refused to cover these massive protests. Look at people lining the streets. Thousands of people lining the streets and protesting against this regime's insane ICE policy. What I always say is, if there are people here and they've committed a slew of crimes and they're here illegally with no documentation, you can give them due process and deport them. But that is not what the Trump admin is doing. They are reallocating funds meant for the deportation of criminals or people here illegally to people who are just working on the farm workers who are here for a better life and who are maybe still going through the process to get documentation. Rerouting these funds for people who have committed crimes and are here legally towards people who are just going to courthouses on a day-to-day basis to try to get their citizenship in any way. It's disgusting. I mean, check this one out. This is a massive protest that broke out in Los Angeles that the mainstream media refuses to cover. This brings me on to the military being mobilized or being ready to be mobilized in D.C. This is a dramatic escalation, and it's happening at a time when violent crime in D.C. is going down. This is the key piece that I really want to point out. Trump said in a long schizophrenic Truth Social post that crime in D.C. is out of control. But here's what the data shows. Crime in D.C. and nationwide is declining from pandemic-era spikes. In fact, it has declined over the past decade. What Trump has been doing is picking out soul anecdotes, like soul stories, and trying to blow them up. This is what conservatives do. There are times when I've checked into Newsmax or Fox News or other right-wing stations, and they're talking about like one transgender person in the country to try to blow it up. Or they play a story, a video of like one black teenager committing some crime, and they try to blow this into a national story. It's sickening, and that's what's happening here. President Donald Trump once again catapulted crime in D.C. into the national conversation with renewed threats last week of a federal takeover and an image of a young federal staffer beaten and bloodied after an attempted carjacking. Again, what did I just say? Taking one story and blowing it up. Yes, an attempted carjacking is terrible, but let's look at the broader facts. Violent crimes in D.C. have been on a steep decline since 2023, reports show. The rolling crime rate per 100,000 in D.C. has fallen to its lowest point. Even since Trump has taken office, it's fallen even more. So what this is an unprecedented, dramatic, authoritarian power grab from this Trump administration, and it's clear what he's trying to do. He's trying to use this as a pretext to stoke more division. Every time the American people stumble on an issue that we agree on, such as, hey, maybe you shouldn't cover for pedophiles, or hey, 90% of Americans think that you shouldn't deport people who are attempting actively to follow the proper procedures, and that's why you see massive protests. Whenever we begin to agree on something, Trump tries to pivot to the most divisive issue possible. That is his MO. Remember when we all began to agree on the Epstein files? So Trump tried to claim that Obama colluded with Russia to rig the election or whatever. It's all just incoherent nonsense meant to distract. The original post that Trump made said that he will hold a press conference tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and he may announce a mobilization of the National Guard. Well, now it seems like that is more and more likely as Trump is panicking. He's also waging war on the homeless for some reason. The man who ran on fixing wealth inequality is now waging war on the people suffering the most. Trump says homeless should leave D.C. immediately after floating federal takeover of Capitol. It is going to be a long week for independent media. Let me tell you, we're going to be covering this every single day and Trump's meeting with Putin. And I have some travel to do to make sure we're doing on-the-ground canvassing and events. So make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Mockler feed. It genuinely means the world to me. Let's read this. President Trump wrote Sunday that homeless people should be moved out of Washington, D.C. immediately and relocated far away. What's in the authoritarian rhetoric? They say that Gavin Newsom is a bad leader because of the way that he treats homeless people or tries to create incentive programs. But this is just authoritarianism. Leave immediately. You're going to be relocated, he says, to the people suffering in D.C., while the people suffering in Gaza are going to be relocated, while Donald Trump mobilizes federal troops across the country, sends undertrained ICE agents into majority Latino communities to try to spook them, stir shit up, and then they use that as a pretext to further mobilize the National Guard. As Mike Nellis points out, Trump sending the National Guard and Marines into LA was about normalizing the military policing of American cities. Now he's trying it again in DC. Reports say he's deploying hundreds of National Guard troops tomorrow morning. Dangerous shit from a president grabbing more power even as his approval rating tanks. Do not let this be normalized. None of this is normal, and please remember that. Let's watch this breaking news report coming out of D.C.
News that we've just received into our newsroom. So we're getting this information from multiple sources, both with Mayor Bowser and with MPD, telling us that as of 6 o'clock this evening, they strongly believe, sources both within the mayor's office and within Metro Police Department, that President Trump, come tomorrow, will deploy the National Guard along the streets of D.C. That is the information that is now coming into our newsroom about what is likely to happen tomorrow at that news conference. That, again, the president is expected to deploy the National Guard, the D.C. National Guard, in and around Washington. This, from what we're being told at this point, has never happened before and would mark a significant turn in events. But no doubt, the continuation of what has been several days of an escalation by the White House to officials in D.C. about complaints regarding crime, and even most recently, as we heard just a minute ago, about the homeless encampments that we've seen in and around the city as well.
I am not buying it. You're mobilizing the National Guard because of homeless encampments and a falling crime rate. This is a clear power grab. The largest amount of crime there's been in D.C. over the past half decade or a decade or 2 decades was on January 6th, was spurred on by Donald Trump. And when he pardoned all of those J6ers, he created the incentive structure for them to recommit crimes. And many of them have. Many of them have killed people. Many of them have done heinous things. And there's no escaping that fact. I'm going to leave this here. If you appreciate these quick breaking news injections into your feed, all that I ask is you drop a like below. Make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Mockler feed, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.